We swoon for you here at the Early Show. A groundbreaking film is about to turn 50. Breakfast at Tiffany's, starring the incomparable Audrey Hepburn, premiered in 1961. The romantic comedy is loosely based on a book by Truman Capote, and it's about a party girl, Holly Golightly, and her quest to find love.
Here to discuss this movie and the movies that had other iconic female roles are A.O. Scott, chief film critic of the New York Times, and Alison Balies, film critic for More magazine. Good morning to both of you.
Hey guys, good morning.
Why do you think this movie made such a big impact back in 1961?
We're not so sure it did make such a big impact.
Really?
And I think it's one of those films that's gained in popularity over the last 50 years.
I think that's true, partly because of the wonderfully charming and romantic and sophisticated view it gives of bohemian life in New York.
Prostitution.
Yes, well, yes. It takes a kind of troubling story by Truman Capote with a lot of sexual stuff that was much too bold to be on screen, and kind of airbrushes it and makes it look pretty and fun, like Pretty Woman.
A sweet Hollywood ending, and I think it really, what's groundbreaking about it is I think the way that Audrey Hepburn became associated with that role, and the dress, the little black Givenchy dress, and the hat and the cigarette holder. So really, it was iconic rather than groundbreaking. Yes. I mean, she is playing a society girl. She's very inventive. It's about self-invention. It's about the American dream. But groundbreaking for women, not so sure.
We want to make sure we do get to the groundbreaking for women roles. And Alison, the first one in your picks is an unmarried woman.
Yeah, this was in 1978, Paul Mazursky film starring Jill Clayburgh, who was nominated for an Oscar for this role. And I think for me, this film just encompasses a zeitgeist that was happening in the 70s, where a lot of women who'd married and had children and who had been defined through their husbands were suddenly left by those husbands, divorce, and really had to start saying, who am I and what am I and where is my place in this life? And I think after the sexual revolution in the late 60s, early 70s, I think this film really epitomized that.
Tony, let me turn to you. Your first choice was the 1940 romantic comedy His Girl Friday, starring Rosalind Russell. And
well, this is one of the. I don't think any woman has ever talked faster in a movie, and she's, it's a great newspaper comedy as well as a great romantic comedy. She's Hildy Johnson, star reporter, used to be married to Walter Burns, who's of course Cary Grant, and the two of them, it's kind of romance as combat, and I think it's a great female role and a groundbreaking one, or maybe one that we should go back to, because here's a woman who is in every way the equal of the man, who's completely feminine but also completely self-confident, tough, cynical, hard-boiled, and what you're watching, this sort of courtship that's going to reunite them, is also a great battle of wits.
Gotcha.
And you have to go back to 1940 to find this film, because look at a film like I Don't Know How She Does It Now, which is about a woman in the workplace. It's not a groundbreaking role. I mean, it's sort of sad that I couldn't think of any modern-day films that had what this film says about women in work.
But you do
and
like
romantic comedies are also romantic comedies now are all about people who are afraid to hurt each other's feelings, and they're very sort of tame and safe and cautious.
But you do like The Accused with Jodie Foster, which is more modern day.
I picked The Accused because I think it was groundbreaking, because I think even in the 80s, which was when this film was made, rape victims still had to defend themselves on the stand, i.e., you had to be demure and prove that you weren't, quote, asking for it. And I think this film really set the record straight, that just because you were flirtatious or you wore a short skirt didn't mean that you deserved what Jodie Foster's character experienced.
Tony, one more for you. 1974's Foxy Brown with Pam Grier. Now, I know as a 14-year-old boy, I know what I liked about this movie. Why do you find Pam Grier and Foxy Brown an iconic character?
Well, there is that, but I think it's also this movie and its predecessor, Coffee, which came out of the blaxploitation movement of the early 70s, have a woman who is certainly sexy and foxy, but who is also taking matters into her own hands, who is not a passive victim, who is fighting back. And I think this paves the way for the phenomenon of the female action hero, of the woman who's taking matters into her own hands, who's delivering payback to the bad guys and looking great while she does it.
Sigourney Weaver in the Alien movies.
Coffee and Foxy Brown, a double feature. There you go.
A.O. Scott, Alison Balies, thanks so much to both of you for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.